All right, welcome to the book of Esther. All right, we're going to jump right in. And my first reader, read Esther 10 through 16, please.
On the seventh day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Harbana, Bigtha, and Agbatha, Zethar, and Carcass, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king, to bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal, to show the people and the princes her beauty, for she was fair to look on. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him. And the king said to the wise men, which knew the times, so was the king's manner toward all that knew law and judgment. And next unto him was Karashana, Shatar, Admatha, Tarshish, Meres, Marsana, Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, which saw the king's face, and which sat the first in the kingdom. What shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to the law, because she hath not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlains? And Memucan answered before the king and princes, Vashti the queen hath not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes, and to all the people that are in the provinces of King Ahasuerus.
Hallelujah. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the book of Esther, but as you can probably tell already, we're not going to go directly in order. Because that's the reason why, is because we're going to be looking at it in how it parallels, prophecy concerning the Messiah and concerning the temple and things of that nature. So I just want to show the spiritual picture that's entailed therein, and how it aligns with other aspects of Scripture, which I think is important to look at. So we're told here that there's a king, and it's a King Ahasuerus, and he is pretty much a world ruler in our respects, and he had a beautiful wife, that was fair to look at. She was her name was Vashti. She was so fair to look at that her name means beautiful. And so when I look through Scripture, I see another lion, and I see another beautiful woman that was disobedient to her king. And so let's take a look. Revelation 5, 2 through 6 says, "And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, Who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof? And no man in heaven nor in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither to look thereon. And I wept much, because no man was found worthy to open, to read the book, neither to look thereon. And one of the elders said unto me, Weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Yahudah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and to loose the 7 seals thereof. And I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the 4 beasts, and in the midst of the elders, stood a lamb, as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 Rukot of Elohim, sent forth into all the earth." Now, here it is. We see a lion, and we see 7 princes. When we look in Esther 1, we see a king whose name means a lion, and we see 7 princes with him. Okay, now for the beautiful one. Revelation 17, 3 through 5 speaks about the disobedient wife. Revelation 17, 3 through 5 reads, it says, "So he carried me away in the Ruach into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon, the great mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And Yochanan even would say afterwards in verse 6 how he looked at her and admired and marveled, I think the word is utilized, you know, and because she was gorgeous, you know, but she was wicked. And so here it is, we see also a woman that's disobedient, you know. Now, continuing on, Esther 2, verses 1 and 2. My next reader, please.
After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what was decreed against her. Then said the king's servant that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king.
Okay, so here it is. We see the king had gave commandment to Vashti. Vashti disobeyed, and so there was some counsel concerning that disobedience as to what needed to be done. And so this is what's being spoken of. It says, after these things, when the wrath of Ahasuerus was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what was decreed against her, and said the king's servants that ministered unto him, let there be fair young virgins sought for the king. Now, likewise, you know, when we consider the story of our Messiah, Yahushua, you know, he also had decreed something that was going to happen to his beautiful disobedient one, i.e. Jerusalem and its beautiful temple. You know, Mark 13, 1 and 2, and as he went out of the temple, one of his disciples saith unto him, Master, see what manner of stones and what buildings are here? And Yahushua answering said unto him, seest thou these great buildings? There shall not be left one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. So because of their disobedience, there was something that was decreed against them. You know, and also Revelation 17, 15 through 18, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For Elohim hath put into their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of Elohim shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. You know, so here it is. We see a decree that's set up against this woman, you know, even as a decree that was set against Vashti, you know, and we can see that it was fueled by those associated with the king, you know, and likewise here in Revelation 17 as well. So, then you have my next reader read verses 3 through 7, please.
And let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan the palace, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Hagi, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their things for purification be given them. And let the maiden which pleaseth the king be queen instead of Vashti. And the thing pleased the king, and he did so. Now in Shushan the palace there was a certain Jew, whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon had carried away. And he brought up Hadassah, that is, Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful, whom Mordecai, whom her father and mother were dead, when her father and mother were dead, took her for his own daughter.
All right, so we see here that the king had appointed officers and all his promises that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan, the palace. And so there's a gathering of the virgins to the palace, and they're there to be purified. They're given things for their purification. And the one that pleases him is going to be the one that's going to be the queen instead of Vashti. And so Mordecai brings Hadassah, that is Esther, that he had taken and raised as his own daughter. It was his cousin that he raised as his own daughter. Okay, now let us consider Ezekiel 9:3-4, because there's the same thing happens in the story of Yahshua. You have these virgins that's going to be gathered. Ezekiel 9:3-4, and the glory of Elohim of Israel was gone up from the cherub, whereupon he was to the threshold of the house. And he called to the man clothed with linen, and had the writer's inkhorn by his side. And Yahuwah said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh, and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. Now, Esther 2:8, now they would go through and they would mark all these virgins, before they gather them. Esther 2:8, so it came to pass when the king's commandment and his decree was heard, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan, the palace, to the custody of Haggai, that Esther was brought also unto the king's house, to the custody of Haggai, keeper of the women. All right, so we got to take a look at some of these terms. Shushan speaks to lily, to a lily, and the lily speaks to something. In 1 Kings 7:19, it says, and the chapiters that were upon the top of the pillars were of lily work in the porch, 4 cubits. So we see here the lily, speaks to the pillars that was in the temple. 1 Kings 7:22, and upon the top of the pillars was lily work, so was the work of the pillars finished. So again, these were the last things to be put on the pillars, that finished them off. So we see the lilies representing the pillars of the temple. And then we have Hosea 14:4-5. I will heal their backsliding. I will love them freely, for mine anger is turned away from him. I will be as the dew unto Israel. He shall grow as the lily, and cast his roots as Lebanon. So again, speaking to those who he will heal their backsliding and cast their roots as Lebanon. Lebanon means white, which speaks to righteousness. So speaking of casting their roots in righteousness. And then we have Haggai, which means eunuch, or my meditations, or word. And so Psalms 119:97-99 speaks to what our meditations and what words we're supposed to be meditating upon. It says, oh how love I thy law. It is my meditation all the day. Though thou through thy commandments have made me wiser than mine enemies, for they are ever with me. I have more understanding than all my teachers, for thy testimonies are my meditations. So we see his testimonies, his law, that is the meditations, especially of the pillars of the righteous. So here it is. Now, see the spiritual picture in this. Now, Esther is brought to a place of the lilies, the place where the pillars are are to be. You know, now she's in the custody of the word. You know, she's in the custody of her meditations upon the word. Can you see that? That's a beautiful picture, you know, of how we're to be. If we're going to be pillars in his temple made with our hands, you know, then we also have to, you know, allow ourselves to go into the custody of meditating upon his word. You know, and you see here that his word and those meditations are the keeper of the women. So, beautiful picture. Now, one of the things that we're told that's I believe is very important and revelatory is that Esther, before she was Esther, she was Hadassah. You know, and that's revelatory because Hadassah means myrtle tree. A myrtle tree is a goodly tree. But when we consider scriptures concerning the myrtle tree, what do we find? So Hadassah is myrtle tree, which is a good tree. Now, Zechariah 1:8-11 says, I saw by night, and behold, a man riding upon a red horse. And he stood among the myrtle trees that were in the bottom, and behind him were the red horses speckled and white. Then said I, O my Adonai, what are these? And the angel that talked with me said unto me, I will show thee what these be. And the man that stood among the myrtle trees answered and said, These are they whom Yahuwah have sent to walk to and fro through the earth. And they answered the angel of Yahuwah that stood among the myrtle trees and said, We have walked to and fro through the earth. And behold, all the earth sitteth still and is at rest. So I pray that you can see that the myrtle trees, you know, these are goodly trees, and these are the trees in which the red horse will be sent amongst. Not just the red horse and even the speckled and the white. You know, so let's go to the other place where these horses are spoken of, and that's in Revelations chapter 6, verses 1-4. It says, And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, Come and see. And I saw and beheld a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, Come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. So now, when we see this, that Hadassah is a myrtle tree, and we see that she's sitting, or that someone's sitting in the midst of the myrtle trees that's there to cause the people to kill one another, to cause a sword to come up against them. You know, we can see, you know, that this is actually a prophecy concerning the persecution of the myrtle trees. You know, and so we can see that these myrtle trees, you know, that there is a prophecy concerning them. You know, so let's continue with verses 5-11 of Revelation 6. My next reader, please.
And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat upon him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, Come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat upon him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth of the earth to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beast of the earth. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of Elohim, and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Adonai, holy and true, doest thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And the robes and white robes were given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them, they that should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed as they were should be fulfilled.
Okay, so we see that before Esther became Esther, she was Hadassah. Hadassah meant myrtle trees. We see the prophecies concerning what's going to happen to the myrtle trees, that they're going to be persecuted, and we see that with this red horse, that peace was taken from the earth, and that he was given a sword to kill, and other horses that was mentioned that was with him, brought death and everything to all those that were around, and they were in the midst of the myrtle trees, and so here it is in verse 9. It tells us, and when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of Elohim and for the testimony which they held. Now remember, if you would, what that they were given into the custody of Haggai, and that Haggai meant testimonies and meditations, of the word. And so we talked about, here it is, a picture of Hadassah being in the custody of the word and its meditations. Can you not see the spiritual equivalent to that right here with these souls up under the altar that was slain for the word that they had and the testimony? That's what they was being kept by. That's your spiritual Haggai right there. Your spiritual Haggai right there. And and it was told them like unto the prophecy in Zechariah, it also spoke of them resting. And here it is, we see in verse 11, says, and it was said unto them that they should rest for a little season. Let me back up this so that you can see that. See in Zechariah 1:11, and they answered the angel of Yahuwah that stood among the myrtle trees, and when we go to the end of the verse, it says, and behold, all the earth sitteth still and is at rest. So we see this resting, but it's not what you would expect, just looking at it in the physical. We see they're resting because, the trees have been cut down, and they've been entrusted into Haggai, the testimony and the word of Elohim. Beautiful, beautiful picture. Now, of course, Hadassah don't stay Hadassah. Hadassah becomes Esther at some point. And Esther, her name means a star. Very revelatory in and of itself, huh? You think? So, Esther means a star. What is a star? It's a light within the darkness. When we look at Esther 2:9, let's consider what it says. My next reader, Esther 2:9 and 10.
And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him, and he speedily gave her things for purification, with such thing as belonged to her, and 7 maidens which were meant to be given her out of the king's house. And he preferred her and her maidens unto the best place of the house of the woman. Esther had not showed her people nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her that she should not shew it.
I'm sorry. Okay, so we see in verse 9, it says, and the maiden pleased him, speaking of Esther, and she obtained kindness of him, and he speedily gave her things for purification, with such things as belonged to her. And it says that he preferred her and her maids unto the best place. of the house of the women. Esther had not showed her people nor her kindred. You know, so now remember, Esther means a star. A star is a light within the darkness, or within the dark night. Let us consider Matthew 5:14-16 says, "Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid, neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." So I put this here so that you can see that we are types of a type of light. You know, also Revelation 1:19-20 says, "Write these things which thou hast seen, and the things which are, and the things which shall be hereafter. The mystery of the 7 stars which thou sawest in my right hand are the 7 golden candlesticks." So we see that the candlesticks are associated with the stars. This is what the Messiah was talking about, lighting a candlestick. Okay? And it says, "The mystery of the 7 stars which thou sawest in my right hand, and the 7 golden candlesticks, the 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches. The 7 candlesticks which thou sawest are the 7 churches." Okay? You know, and so essentially what this is speaking to is the messengers of Elohim. You know, the 7 stars are the flames or spirits to the 7 churches, or the 7 ecclesias that are to take the word of the Most High throughout the earth. You know, proclaiming the gospel of our Messiah, Yahushua, and giving testimony unto him in his way. So again, star speaking to a light within darkness. You know, Revelation 14:1-7, see if we can't find Esther, says, "And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his name written on their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven, as the voice of many waters, as the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. And they sung, as it were, a new song before the throne and before the 4 beasts and the elders. And no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. These are they which were not defiled with women. They are virgins." You see your virgins? You see the purification. They are not defiled. "These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto Elohim and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of Elohim. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, Fear Elohim and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. And worship him that made the heaven and the earth and the sea and the fountains of waters." So we see they were doing just that. They were taking his word throughout the earth. You know, they was bearing witness by giving his gospel and having the testimony of Yahushua. Esther 2:9 goes on to say, "And the maiden pleased him," and it speaks of the 7 maidens, which were meet to be given her out of the king's house, and he preferred her and her maids. So now we're going to take a look at the 7 maids and how they had the best place in the house. So the 144,000 is as spiritual Esther. And so 7 is completion. Let's see if we can't find her 7 maidens. Revelation 7:9-15. "After this, I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands, and cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our Elohim which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. And all the angels stood round about the throne and about the elders and the 4 beasts, and fell before the throne on their faces and worshipped Elohim, saying, Amen. Blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving and honor and power and might be unto our Elohim forever and ever. Amen. And one of the elders answered, saying unto me, what are these which are arrayed in white robes, and whence came they? And I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said to me, these are they which came out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes, and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore are they before the throne of Elohim, and serve him day and night in his temple. And he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. So can you see that they were not purified? They were purified, rather, that's the reason that they was there, because they made their robes white. They went through their purification process, even as Esther and her maidens, were to go through the purification process. So are the 144,000 and those that are with her. They come through a purification period called the Great Tribulation. And so a beautiful parallel. Let me have my next reader read Esther 3, 1 through 6, please.
After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hamada, the Agagite, and advanced him, and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence. Then the king's servants which were in the king's gate said unto Mordecai, Why transgressest thou the king's commandment? Now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matter would stand, for he had told them he was a Jew. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath. And he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had shewed him the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai.
Hallelujah. Okay, so we got a bad guy here, right? Now, verse 1 said, after these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him. Now, Haman, his name means magnificent or the rager, and Hammedatha means devil, and Agagite means flame. So what we see is a rager with devil flames, and we have someone that's not willing to bow to him or to do reverence to him. So here it is. We have a picture of one that's raging and putting up devil flames. That should take you back to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And how they heated the furnace 7 times. Or Kephas, where he speaks about those fiery trials. This is what's going on, and here it is, and we have Mordecai not bowing, and they're asking, why are you not keeping the king's commandment? See, because they were servants of not a king, but the king, the King of Kings, and they was keeping the King of Kings' commandments. They wasn't keeping the earthly king's commandments. But that just so happens to perturb the earthly king, and so that didn't make things go too easy. Now they told him that he was a Yahudim, he was a praiser of Yah. So that's why he's not submitting unto the earthly king, because he's a praiser of Yah. He follows Yah. So Mordecai get this bright idea. Well, I'm gonna destroy not only him, but all the praisers of Yah. I'm sorry, yeah, Haman got this bright idea that he was going to destroy Mordecai and all the praises of Yah. You know, much like what we read about the destroyer, Apollyon, Abaddon. You know, he's going to do something very similar, very similar. He's going to set up and try to make an image and try to make everyone bow to it, make everyone worship it. You know, and those true praises of Yah, of course, will not do so. And so they're going to get thrown into the flames, the fiery trials. You know, and so let's see. Oh yeah, and I have first Kephas 4:12 here. Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial, which is to try you as though some strange thing happened unto you. You know, and this is just a picture of those fiery trials coming upon Mordecai and the Yahudim, including our girl Esther. All right, Esther 3:7-13. My next reader, please.
In the first month, that is the month Nisan, in the 12th year of King Assur, they cast that is the lot before Haman from day to day and from month to month to the 12th month, that is the month Adar. And Haman said unto King Assur, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the province of thy kingdom, and their law are diverse from all people. Neither keep they the king's law, therefore it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. If it please king, let it be written that they may be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have the charge of the business to bring it unto king's treasures. And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman, the son of Hammedatha, and Agag, the Jews' enemy. And the king said to Haman, the silver is given to thee, the people also do with them as it seemeth good to thee. Then were the king's scribes called on the 13th day of the first month, and there was written according to all that Haman had commanded unto the king's lieutenants and to the governors that were over every province, and to the rulers of every people and every province according to the writings thereof, to every people after their language, in the name of King Assur was it written, a seal with the king's ring, and the letters were sent by post unto all the king's province to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Jews, both young and old, little children and women, in one day, even unto the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, and to take the spoils of them to them for a prey.
Hallelujah. Okay, so here it is. We see the flames. Amen. We see the fiery trials that's about to come, that comes on Yah's people. You know, even as Haman's name means, you know, rager and devil flames, you know, even as his complete title speaks to being a rager and devil flames, here it is, we see him truly living up to that, you know, and he's putting true praises of Yah in devil flames. you know, coming up against them for really absolutely nothing, for something that one done. He's taking it out on all of them. Revelations 13, 1 through 8, you know, speaks to the spiritual parallel to Haman. It says, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him power and his seat and his great authority. And I saw one of his heads as if it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against Elohim, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And the power was given unto him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. Now, I pray that you can see your spiritual Haman here. You know, for here it is, we're told that they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, even as, you know, the king gave power unto Haman. You know, and we're told in verse 7, it says, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. So even as it was given unto Haman to make war with the saints, the praises of Yah, and to overcome them. You know, and so here it is, we see that same parallel, you know, exemplified, you know, in prophecy concerning Yahshua and his people. Now, this is a reoccurring thing within Scripture, which is also depicted within prophecy, which is yet to come during the end times. That is the true Yahudim, i.e. a time when the true praises of Yah will be persecuted for not compromising their faith. Same thing. Acts 5:28 and 29, saying, Did not we straitly command you that you should teach that you should not teach in this name? And behold, ye have filled Jerusalem with your doctrine, and intend to bring this man's blood upon us. Then Cephas, or Peter, and the other apostles answered and said, We ought to obey Elohim rather than men. So if you're around during this time when this stuff takes place, I just wanted you to know it happened before and it's going to happen again. And if you so happen to be around, then follow the example that Cephas has set for us. You know, we ought to obey Elohim rather than man. You know, let me have my next reader read Esther 5, 1 through 3, please.
Now it came to pass on the 3rd day that Ester put on her royal apparel, and stood in the inner court of the king's house over against the king's house. And the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house, over against the gate of the house. And it was so, when the king saw Ester the queen standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight. And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. Then said the king to her, What will thou, Queen Esther? And what is your request? It shall be given you even to the half of the kingdom.
Hallelujah. Oh, and in case you were wondering what Mordecai's name means, it speaks to those who are oppressed. You know, the bitterness of those that are oppressed, and it can also speak to a little one. You know, and truly, you know, he did go through some bitterness and some bitter oppression. Now, here it is. We see that on the 3rd day, Esther put on her royal apparel. Now, this was to be the resolve to what evil Haman, wicked Haman, was trying to accomplish. Now, I want you to remember who spiritual Esther represents, the 144,000 you know, and I want you to be able to see the role of the priesthood actually in her actions, because the priest, you know, their role is to cover the people. You know, they're supposed to go before Yah and make sure that the people are covered, you know, in case they sinned or what have you. You know, and this is exactly what Esther is doing. You know, and oftentimes when they do that, you know, they don't just pray. A lot of times they fast as well. You know, and, you know, even like for the Day of Atonement, you know, which is the day of covering. You know, so we see that element involved in here as well. You know, so she puts on her royal apparel, you know, and she's taking a chance to go into his the king's presence, but not before fasting and calling a nationwide fast. So everyone was fasting and praying, you know, and she goes in and finds favor. You know, so same thing happens, you know, in the end times with the 144,000. They too will be praying on behalf of the saints, you know, keeping them covered. Let me have my next reader read verses 7 through 14 of Esther 5.
Then answered Ishtar and said, My petition and my request is, if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it please the king to grant my petition and to perform my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them, and I'll do tomorrow as the king hath said. Then went Haman forth that day joyful with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he stood not up, nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called for his friends and Zeresh his wife. And Haman told them of the glory of his riches and the multitude of his children, and all the things wherein the king had promoted them, and how he advanced him above the princes and servants of the king. Haman said, Moreover, yea, Ishtar the queen did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared but myself, and tomorrow am I invited unto her also with the king. Yet all this availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate. Then said Zeresh his wife and all his friends unto him, Let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. Then go thou in merrily with the king unto the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made.
Okay, so here it is. We see that that a banquet is in order. So they're going to have a banquet, you know, and so Haman gets invited to the banquet. Well, it just so happens that the destroyer Apollyon Abaddon, that he also gets invited to a banquet. You know, what do you know? Revelations 19, 6 through 9, it says, And I heard as it were the voice of a great multitude, and as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of mighty thundering, saying, Alleluia, for the Adonai Elohim omnipotent reigneth. Let us be glad and rejoice and give honor to him, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and the wife has made herself ready. And to her was granted that she should be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white, for the fine linen is the righteousness of the saints. And he saith unto me, Right blessed are they which are called unto the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he saith unto me, These are the true sayings of Elohim. Then we have Revelations 14, 12, and 13. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of Elohim and the faith of Yahushua. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, Right blessed are the dead which die in the Adonai from henceforth. Yea, saith the Ruach, they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. These are going to be the ones that's going to make up 144,000 is going to make up her bridesmaids, you know, that are without number. And, you know, these are going to be the ones that's going to be attending the marriage supper of the Lamb along with the Lamb. And we know Mordecai is going to get invited as well. Our spiritual not Mordecai, Haman. And our spiritual Haman, Apollyon or Abaddon. You know, and of course that's when they go and they're destroyed. Esther 5:4, and Esther answered, if it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him. Let me have my next reader read Esther 6:7-12.
And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighteth to honor, let the royal apparel be brought, which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head. And let this apparel and the horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal, whom the king delighteth to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor. And the king said to Haman, make haste and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do so to Mordecai the Jew that sitteth at the king's gate, let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor. And Mordecai came again to the king's gate, but Haman hasted to his house mourning, and having his head covered.
Hallelujah. Okay, so in case you haven't figured it out yet, Mordecai is likened unto the Messiah in this parallel. You know, the one that was had the bitterness of oppression, the little one that's going to be exalted to the greatest in the kingdom. Hence we read in Revelation 11:15 says, and the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Adonai and of his Messiah, and he shall reign forever and ever. You know, and just as Haman would be second unto the king, our Messiah would be second unto his father. You know, and everything's going to be good. Let me have my next reader read Esther 8:1-8.
On that day did the king Ahasuerus give the house of Haman the Jews' enemy unto Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her. And the king took off his ring which he had taken from Haman, and gave it to Mordecai, and Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. And Esther spake yet again before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman the Agagite, and his device that he had devised against the Jews. Then the king held out the golden scepter towards Esther. So Esther arose and stood before the king, and said, if it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman the son of the Hammedatha, the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews which are in all the king's provinces. For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come into my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Then the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen, and to Mordecai the Jew, behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Jews. Write ye also for the Jews as it liketh you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring. For the writing which is written in the king's name and sealed with the king's ring may no man reverse.
Hallelujah. And again, you know, in parallel to the story of Esther, those of Yahushua, you know, those of Yahushua will not know. They won't know. No one will know who they are, you know, during that time of when they're going through the fiery trials. You know, they're gonna, just like they didn't know who the Messiah was. They're not gonna know who the bride is. They're not gonna know who the handmaids are. You know, they're not gonna know who they truly are, you know, until the end. So same thing, same parallel exists. Esther 9:4-6 goes on to say, for Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went out throughout all the provinces. For this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater, even as our Messiah will wax greater and greater. Thus the Yahudim smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them. And in Shushan, the palace, the Yahudim slew and destroyed 500 men. You know, and if I'm going to jump down verses 15 to 16, and it says, for the Yahudim that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day also of the month of Adar, and slew 300 men at Shushan, but on the prey they laid not their hand. Now remember when Haman, you know, put the petition out there, when he put the order out there and said that, hey, they can take the prey. You know, after they kill the Yahudim, they can take their goods as prey. But, you know, here it is showing righteous, how righteous Mordecai was. You know, he made sure that they didn't take the prey. You know, and verse 16, but the other Yahudim that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves together and stood for their lives, and had rest from their enemies, and slew of their foes 75,000. But they laid not their hands on the prey. You know, and again, you know, Mordecai is a parallel in the story to our Messiah. Revelations 11:15. Again, the seventh angel sounded, and there was great voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Adonai and of his Mashiach, and he shall reign forever. There's coming a time, our Messiah, he will rule, he will reign in the everlasting kingdom. Revelation 19:13-21. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of Elohim. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he shall smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of Almighty Elohim. And he hath on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great Elohim, that ye may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and of them that sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. And the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat on the horse, which sword proceeded out of his mouth, and all the fowls were filled with their flesh. You know, so this is the end result, you know, after they go to that banquet, and it doesn't turn out good for spiritual Haman, even as it didn't turn out good for physical Haman. That's all I have for you today. It was a blessing.